Core cake baking techniques. Measuring. It might sound obvious, but measuring, the first step to creating perfect cakes, takes care. Baking is a science, and inexact measurements will yield inferior results. We provide weights for dry ingredients in our recipes and use a digital scale to weigh them. We strongly recommend you do too. But if you're dead set on measuring these ingredients by volume, there's a way to increase your accuracy: the dip and sweep method. Dip the measuring cup into the flour, sugar, or other dry ingredient and sweep away the excess with a straight-edged object, such as the back of a butter knife. For wet ingredients, we use a liquid measuring cup. For an accurate reading, set the cup on a level surface and bend down to read the bottom of the concave arc at the liquid surface, known as the meniscus line, at eye level. And for sticky ingredients, we recommend using an adjustable measuring cup. If you don't own one, spray a dry measuring cup with vegetable oil spray before filling it. When emptied, the liquid should slide right out of the cup. Preparing the pan. If we're serving a cake right out of the pan usually needs only to be greased and floured. But if you want to remove the cake from the pan, you'll need to line it, otherwise the cake could stick and break into pieces as you attempt to remove it. Some exceptions: high-fat pound cakes, curved bundt cakes, cheesecakes, and most important, chiffon and angel food cakes. These actually need to stick to the sides of the pan in order to maintain their delicate rise. Firstly, place the cake pan on a sheet of parchment and trace around the bottom of pan. Cut out a parchment circle. Secondly, evenly spray the bottom and sides of the pan with vegetable oil spray or rub with butter. Thirdly, fit parchment into the pan, grease the parchment, and then sprinkle with several tablespoons of flour. Shake and rotate the pan to coat it evenly and shake out the excess. Mixing. Once your ingredients are measured, mixing can begin. Depending on the recipe and the type of cake you're making, batters can be mixed by hand, in a food processor, or by using a mixer, the most common method in this book. The most basic mixing method, which we use for the Devil's Food layer cake, is called creaming, and it's done in a stand mixer. With creaming, softened butter and sugar are beaten together until the mixture is pale and fluffy. Eggs are added next, sometimes followed by other liquid ingredients, here, sour cream and vanilla extract. And then the dry ingredients, which are sometimes added in alternating turns with additional liquid ingredients, here, a melted chocolate, cocoa mixture. Following this gradual series of events prevents overmixing, which can yield tough cakes. Creaming accomplishes two things. First, it makes the butter malleable, which allows other ingredients to blend in easily. Second, the tiny sugar crystals act like extra beaters, helping to incorporate air into the butter as it's creamed. These tiny air pockets expand during baking, giving the cake lift and forming its crumb. Occasionally scraping down the bowl with a spatula guarantees that all the ingredients are evenly incorporated. Any way you mix it, while creaming may be the most common mixing method, it's not the only one. Many of the recipes in this book use other methods, such as reverse creaming, whipping whites, ribboning, and the quick bread method. Each serves a specific purpose, and using the right technique ensures your cake will have the desired texture. Click here for more information on these other mixing methods and to discover how mixing technique can affect the texture of your cake. Transferring to pan. While the hardest part of making a cake probably takes place in the mixing bowl, you still want to take care with the rest of the process, and that includes transferring the aerated batter to the pans. If making a layered cake, you'll want to divide the batter as evenly as possible between the pans to ensure that the layers will be the same height and will bake through in the same amount of time. Then, you typically want to smooth the top of the batter with a rubber spatula for a level result. This is particularly important with thick batters. Finally, if a batter isn't too delicate, tap it on the counter to further settle it or to release any air bubbles that could leave holes in the finished cake. Be sure to use a cake pan that's at least 2 inches tall and has a light interior. Baking. Once the batter is in the pans, the cake is ready to be baked, and although the process is usually straightforward, little details can make a big difference. Take care to adjust the oven racks as directed in the recipe and use an oven thermometer to guarantee your oven is at the proper temperature. Rotate the pan halfway through baking, and switch the position of the pans if baking more than one layer, to ensure even browning and baking. When's the cake done? The amount of time it will take for a cake to bake depends on many factors, such as the temperature of the oven and the depth of the batter. But don't rely on the recipe's time alone. The most foolproof way to test doneness is with the classic toothpick test. Most butter cakes are finished baking when a toothpick inserted in the center of the cake comes out clean. For moister, chocolate-based cakes like this Devil's Food layer cake, the toothpick should come out with a few crumbs attached to ensure the cake isn't dry. Cooling. Some delicate cakes, like angel food cake, need to cool completely in the pan before being turned out. Others, such as cheesecakes, need time to set up before being released from the springform pan. And some cakes, such as jelly roll cake, need to be manipulated while warm and have to be removed from the pan immediately. But the majority of cakes need just a little cooling time in the pan, about 10 minutes to set up, after which they should be removed from the pan so that the residual heat doesn't overbake them. Cool cakes on a wire cooling rack where air can circulate around them. After removing a cake from a pan, be sure to remove the parchment before reinverting the cake right side up on the cooling rack. If you're storing cooled cake layers at room temperature for a day before building your layer cake, wrap them well in plastic wrap. If you opt to freeze them, wrap them in plastic followed by a layer of aluminum foil. You can freeze layers for up to 1 month. Defrost wrapped cakes at room temperature.